The Everglades Wonder Gardens started back in 1936. This place almost went away, but we're bringing it back to life. Today it represents one of the last survivors of roadside attractions in South Florida. On March 12th of 2015, I got to join several of the board members of the Bonita Wonder Gardens as they were doing their due diligence for the purchase of the Everglades Wonder Gardens. Our group met David Piper at his storage unit to inventory some of the old artifacts that used to be on display in the museum at the old Everglades Wonder Gardens. Many of these rare items hadn't been seen in years. When we arrived, one of the first things that I got to see was Big Joe. Big Joe was the star at the Everglades Wonder Gardens. He was the first thing that visitors would see when they walked into the park. Big Joe died in 2003, somewhere around the age of 75. In his prime, Big Joe was considered to be the largest American crocodile in the world. He was 15 feet long and weighed nearly 1,200 pounds. Seeing Big Joe was cool, but one of the best parts of the morning was hearing David Piper talk about some of his rare taxidermied animals, such as these Florida panthers.
My grandfather was the first person to have Florida panthers in captivity in the state of Florida and on exhibit, as far as that wasn't involved with any scientific or anything or connected to the government, so as far as an independent person. But this is a super cool mount. This is a young panther, and what they'll do is they'll lose these spots as they mature, and they'll also grow to their ears. I mean, you can see how when they're adults, how big their ears are, and they grow to their ears. Look at them. Yeah. So I wanted to have it mounted because most people always, they didn't. When we were talking about it on tour, we always told the tour guides to say whenever they had young, the youngs were spotted, and most people would confuse them with a bobcat if it wasn't for the long tail. You know, bobcats have a little crop tail, you know. So it's really, really, really sweet, and it's one of my favorites. What this is before crocodiles actually engage, what they'll do is they'll raise with their mouths open, and they'll cross the front part of their jaws. First, they'll start looking at each other, and they'll make some noises and hissing sounds, and then they'll lay their heads down towards the ground, and they'll raise their heads up to the side. The next step would be when they do this, one of the other one at that point would grab the other one. And the reason that they grab by the head is because instinctively they know that the weak point is in the skull. So all crocodiles and stuff that we've had die at the gardens, I would say probably 95% of them that ever died in fights, because you have large numbers of them, is because they were grabbed by the head. We wanted an aquatic scene of a saltwater estuary would be found. And after they would get out of a saltwater estuary like they're found in the Everglades too, then you'd see the cattails and the different lilies and all that. And you can see there's water in there and there's mud, and it's just really cool. So that's what this fellow right here is. Crocodiles have always been my favorite. They're real interesting. Crocodiles can be cantankerous, but they're relatively easier to work with, and alligators are simple to work with. Caimans, yeah, something. He put the fear of God in everybody in the small alligator pen that we named the Caiman Pool because of him. Whenever they would get in there to bleach, clean, and disinfect, he'd literally jump up off the ground. Somebody bought him in Bonita years ago as a pet when they used to be able to sell the Caimans as pets. You know, he was like this big, and they're really cute. You know, they're sweet looking, and they're different than alligators because their head structure is different. Their eyes are a little set a little bit higher up, and the way their skull's formed, and they don't have a pointed snout like a crocodile. It's a total different species. But the thing is that they had it, brought it home, raised it up, and after it got so big, they put him in the kids' pool and made a place for him out back. So what happened was when they would go in there to feed him, but he became aggressive. And he'd run them out of there and chase them like a dog with big teeth. But anyway, the people told us to come see what we could do with him because they got scared of him. And he was only like this big at the time. And so I was like, oh, no problem. So I go there and see him, and I thought they're exaggerating, you know, and I go to the back gate, go into the chain link fence area, and then I go into the area where he was. And right before I started opening the door, it'd be like a pit bulldog. He was like, boom, he was right there. So anyway, so I grabbed hold of him and took him to the gardens, and we fed him, and he got big and happy, and he's just a great guy.
Seeing the artifacts and hearing David Piper talk about them was a great experience for me. But even better is knowing that they will be coming back to the museum at the Everglades Wonder Gardens for future generations to enjoy.
Everglades Wonder Gardens is part of the rich heritage of Bonita Springs and Southwest Florida. If you would like to see this legacy continue for future generations to enjoy, please contact us. Thank you for your support.